Now let's move on to my second point. I want to call this the good news and bad news bears for the game. We'll do this after every game. The good news and bad news bears. For me, the first good news bear, and we're only going to talk about players for this section. And normally when I give out my MVP, it'll be a player, but Dennis Allen's defense was so crazy, I had to give him the MVP. But good news, bad news bears from a player standpoint. First, for me, is Tremaine Edmunds. I think personally he's having the best year he's had as a Bear. This season, he's been really good. He's been really good. A lot of games just all over the field. I don't know how many people are, privy to or what his stats are right now going into, through what is this, 6 games now. But he has 30 solo tackles. He has the 1 sack, which he got yesterday. He has 3 freaking interceptions and another one yesterday. Just all over the field. The big frame is really being a thing on defense. He had 9 tackles, a sack, and a pick yesterday. That's a heck of a game for an inside linebacker, guys. Montez Sweat was a good news bear yesterday. He absolutely was. I thought that, obviously the sack, he had another tackle for a loss. He forced that fumble earlier in the game. He had 4 tackles. He was great against the run. He was okay in pass rush, but overall great against the run. I thought he had a great game, an impact game. Jaquan Brisker was awesome. 6 tackles and a sack. I wish he hadn't gotten the roughing the passer. This is now 2 straight weeks that he's gotten a roughing the passer penalty. And both times, technically, according to rule, it was a roughing the passer. But I'm really hoping, I said this during the stream yesterday, I'm really hoping that the NFL goes back and revisits the way they call the roughing the passer. What I think is the remedy or the solution for what I think is an issue with this call is to make it a reviewable call. And so how in the NFL, every score, every turnover is automatically reviewed. I believe every roughing the passer penalty should also be automatically reviewed, because the impact that these penalties have on the game, you have to make sure you get these right? You cannot call a roughing the passer penalty and the replay shows that it was incidental contact, that there was very little contact, because in full speed, things sometimes look worse than they do when you look at them back in terms of in slow motion or on instant replay. They look way worse, and you can easily see a guy's arm was kind of like pushed into the guy's head. Or the penalty that Jaquan Brisker was called for yesterday, he literally was swiping at Spencer Rattler's arm, which is obviously up around his head. The arm goes through his arm, and as it goes through his arm, he brushes the side of Spencer Rattler's helmet. To me, in a perfect system or an improved system, the NFL, the officials will be able to look at that in replay and say, oh, that was incidental contact, no malicious intent, no damage was done to Spencer Rattler. That doesn't need to be a penalty. And to me, I think that play should be reviewable. I don't think that coaches should have to use a challenge flag on it. I think that it should be automatically reviewed, just like turnovers and scores. That's just my bit. I'll get off my soapbox on that, but I do think that that's something that should happen. Let's look at the offensive side of the ball for the rest of the good news bears. The O-line on a whole, is just playing out of their minds. And at first, we were just talking about how well they were doing running, with run blocking. But we need to talk about the whole shebang with this offensive line right now. 172 yards on the ground total is what the Bears had against the Saints. But also, Caleb Williams was only sacked 1 time. Now, there were some times that he escaped some pressure, got outside, and maybe there was some some pressure that got home, and he was able to use his athleticism to get out of the way. But overall, the offensive line is playing such improved football, guys. We'd be crazy not to acknowledge what's happening. It's a combination of gelling, getting healthy, and making a switch over there at left tackle. Theo Benedet has just been clearly better than Braxton. And so this was a good change. We are still sitting here wondering about Ozzie Trapio. I think he played a pretty decent amount of snaps, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday. But a lot of people obviously are still wondering about him. You know, how much is he going to factor in if he is indeed too slow to play the left tackle? What is his future with the way that Theo Benedet is stepping up? And there's no reason at all to think that he wouldn't continue to play. So it's a question for sure. Like what are we looking at with Ozzie Trapio, a guy who you used a second round pick on? And I wanted to make sure and see how many snaps did he play against New Orleans. And actually, no, he only had 6 special team snaps. He did not play from scrimmage. So this is 2 straight games that he didn't have any. The last time he had snaps from the line of scrimmage was against the Raiders. He had 40. So I don't know. We got to see. But for right now, you got to ride the wave, and the offensive line is playing well. You got to go with it. But that is a question for the future. Another good news bear on the offensive side was obviously DeAndre Swift. Back-to-back games over 100 yards. Had another rushing touchdown, 124 yards on the ground. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. The problems running the ball were never about DeAndre Swift. It was about getting this offensive line in order. And you want more proof of that? Cal Manunga has the best game of his rookie season with 81 yards and a touchdown. Looked phenomenal going downhill. They are beginning to look like that running back tandem that we all wanted them to look like. They're not, DeAndre Swift isn't quite Jahmyr Gibbs, and Cal Manunga isn't quite David Montgomery at this point. But we are seeing that thunder and lightning kind of a combination that I think can be a phenomenal run game. And if the Bears keep running the ball like this, this offense is going to be potent. Now, I don't want to pick on him because there's a lot of really sensitive Caleb Williams people out here. But my one bad news bear is Caleb Williams. This is just this game. And actually, it's been 2 games in a row. I felt like he hasn't played well, but I thought yesterday's game was his worst game of the season. 15 of 26, 172 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. And in my opinion, a ton of odd decisions and too many times where he's trying to play hero ball. There were times yesterday that I asked myself, is Caleb jealous that the run game is like carrying this offense right now and he feels like he has to make a play? I really actually kind of was wondering, like, what's going on? So I saw something and I was saying this in so many different ways, right? But I saw a tweet from the Bears blog. And what they said was Caleb's flaws, and I'm quoting them, reading this direct tweet. It says Caleb's flaws mirror early flaws of Josh Allen and to a degree Cam Newton. Young, talented quarterbacks must learn offensive structure is their friend. The game will present moments for them to be special, but down for down success is about getting the ball where it needs to go quickly. I could not agree with that more. That is essentially what I have been saying about Caleb for the last 2 years. His talent is undeniable. He does things on a football field that only a handful of guys that have ever played this game could do. The issue with him is that he tries to create those situations rather than finding himself in those situations and then being special within them. And he is still extremely young. And so this is something that it is growing pains you have to watch and you just have to go through. It's something you have to go through sometimes for a kid to actually get to the point where they are special. I think the Bears are in a good situation because they are beginning to run the ball now. So we don't have to put as much pressure on him, but it is up to him sometimes to not put more pressure on himself to be special and to just take what's there. I have a thought, guys, about Caleb Williams in this offense and how a proper adjustment will affect one of his teammates. If Caleb Williams will simply begin to more readily accept and take the check down, DeAndre Swift is going to the Pro Bowl. I'm going to be just straight honest with you guys. The amount of time, and I challenge everybody to go to Bears film room and to watch the all 22 of the majority of the Bears games this year. And you look at how often DeAndre Swift is open as the check down, and Caleb doesn't even look his way. Instead, he gets his mind set on threading the needle in a tighter window down the field, which in some instances puts the ball in jeopardy. And he doesn't even look at the check down. And so I watched Jaquan Brisker, a far less physically talented quarterback, but a veteran for the Arizona Cardinals, filling in for an injured Kyler Murray against the Green Bay Packers. And I watched the way he quarterbacked the game. Now, Arizona lost. They are depleted at running back, and they are a losing bunch, right? But I watched the way Jaquan Brisker kept his team in the game, used his weapons, used his tight end, Trey McBride, used his wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., used his check downs. And I said, if a guy as talented as Caleb Williams could just inject a little bit of the game management DNA, the game management mindset that a guy like Jaquan Brisker brings to the field every time he plays. And I'm not telling you, I'm not implying that Jaquan Brisker is better than Caleb Williams, or I'd rather have Jaquan Brisker. That's ridiculous. All I'm saying is this approach would do a little bit of that approach would do Caleb Williams so much good, man. Like, his numbers would be higher. We would have less stalled drives. The Bears would be overall a better offense if he would just accept certain situations for what they are. Check down, take the check down, throw the ball away, things like that. Those things there would, it would improve the Bears exponentially on offense, and it would take a lot of pressure off him, and it would make him an overall better player. So those are the things I want to see. He was the only bad news Bear for me, but I'm not down on him forever. It just was a bad game this week, and unfortunately, the Bears won anyway.